Hi, I'm Mark Mazzaferro, Public Information Officer for the City of Vacaville, and this is another episode of the Vacaville View. In this episode, we're going to meet Gary Stanoff, a social worker for the City of Vacaville, who's going to tell us all about the Parent Project. It's a program the city offers that helps parents deal with difficult children. Next up, we're going to see some sights and sounds from the Veterans Day Ceremony that was held in Andrews Park here in Vacaville. Finally, we're going to get to meet Gordon Keiser. He's a Vacaville resident who's written a book about all the things we should be doing to help us live a long, happy life. So stay tuned. With me right now is Gary Stanoff. He's a master social worker with the Youth Services section of the Vacaville Police Department. Gary's here to talk to us today about a program the police department offers called the Parent Project. And Gary, thank you for spending some time with us right now. Why don't you tell us what Parent Project is and why we offer this service to our residents?
Well, Mark, I appreciate you having me. Parent Project is a parenting class for parents of strong-willed kids ages 11 to 18. Mm-hmm. And the class meets for 10 weeks, once a week for 3 hours. And essentially what it does is it gives parents the tools to understand and to influence and to motivate their teenagers. Now,
you talk about strong-willed kids, children. You know, we're not supposed to say kids, I guess. But when I first started attending youth roundtable meetings, when I first got hired by the city, and we talk about kids in diversion, the diversion program, things like that, I would have been a diversion kid when I was growing up. You know, back in the day, you went to the dean and you got swatted, and your parents found out, and you know they took care of it at home. So things are clearly different now. But are these diversion kids that are is that part of where these kids come from, or how do? Well, let me ask you this: where do your customers come from?
Well, our parents are from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean all walks of life. In the 16 years I've taught the class, I've had several medical doctors, lawyers, law enforcement, fire, chiropractors, dentists. In other words, people of all walks of life who are highly successful. Mm-hmm. And in fact, most of the parents are successful parents. However, they run into a stumbling block when they have a strong-willed child. Mm-hmm. They're not really sure what to do because the traditional techniques they've been using don't quite fit their strong-willed kid.
So what's a strong-willed child?
Well, a strong-willed kid is a child whose temperament is such that they tend to learn through their own experiences. Mm-hmm. In other words, if this is a child, if you keep saying, don't touch that hot stove, you'll burn your hand. The only way that he learns is by touching that. Okay? And I think what happens is they tend to be terribly frustrating for parents. Mm-hmm. And parents often will question themselves, and in fact will often question their own parenting techniques. Right. For the outcome of their child's temperament.
Mm-hmm. So, worst case scenario, the strong-willed child, what happens to that person? He grows up and becomes what? Or can you even say that?
Well, I think this. I think that being strong-willed is a temperament, mm-hmm. and it's neither good nor bad. I think there are certainly good signs to that. My experience is that when teenagers grow up and they have a strong-willed temperament, they tend to be very successful. When they find their passion, when they find their bliss. Right. But in the meantime, as they grow up, they're very, very challenging. Mm-hmm.
And the class teaches parents how to deal with that and how to adjust their parenting to that child, or
exactly
keep them on the right path, I guess.
Exactly. Really, it's a set of tools. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we give parents a set of tools, techniques, but we also give them, what happens with the group is that they receive the emotional support to follow through with the practical advice that they get in the class.
And I would imagine that as there's always going to be some apprehension on the parents' part. Oh, man, I don't want to go. It's embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. Then you get there and you see other parents in the same situation. That's got to help. That right there has got to be a benefit.
You know, sadly, we do a real disservice, I think, as communities in general, mm-hmm. that if someone is taking a parenting class, there's something inherently wrong with it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But if we think about it, state of California, we have to have a license credential for some of the most menial and really unimportant type jobs. Right. But here, in order to be a parent, we receive no training. The only thing that you really need is to be fertile, mm-hmm. Which is really crazy. I have had so many parents say to me when the class is over, even parents who did not want to take the course, who will state that everybody really should take this class. And in fact, my regret is I didn't take this 5 years ago.
Now, tell me about, it's a 10-week course?
It is 10 weeks.
Walk through the progression of how you start and where you end up at the end of 10 weeks.
Well, each week is a different chunk of lesson plan. And what we try to do in the first night is we lay the groundwork for change. And much of the class is based on love and affection. So what we teach parents to do is the importance and the power of that. I think sometimes as kids are beginning to individuate, they're beginning to separate at that age of 12 or 13, they listen to us less and less. And this becomes really frustrating to parents. I think the other thing is that when parents are angry with their kids or they're frustrated with how they're doing academically or socially, they start to say, I love you less and less. And they express it less and less.
Sure, because they're mad at them.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
You know, I hate you. You're driving me crazy. Not, I love you. Don't do that.
That's
you
right.
know?
So what we try to do is to teach parents, well, first of all, how to approach the temperament of a strong-willed child, the importance of love and affection, and then we teach them the 3 most powerful methods to influence and motivate kids.
Mm-hmm. And those are?
Well,
I mean, I don't want to give away the whole
really
end
simple.
of the story.
Yeah,
but
it's positive strokes, you know, how to use positive stroke. And a positive stroke is when we catch someone doing something right and we praise them for it. The second is a positive consequence. And a positive consequence is not a bribe. A bribe, you get the money first. Positive consequence is that we work for a paycheck, which is really why capitalism works. We can make that argument. And the other thing are negative consequences. And just as if you were driving home tonight and you were speeding, you got pulled over, you'd receive a negative consequence. You'd get a ticket for that. So what we do is we teach parents how to use love and affection and all those other tools in a package to help change their kids' behavior.
So you've been doing this, you've been in this position for 16 years. You've been teaching the course for 16 years?
Yeah, I've worked for the city for 17 years, 16 years of teaching the class.
And what's the turnout like generally? Do you get a lot of people? Is it up and down, or to go with the economy, or it doesn't matter?
I don't think we've ever had less than 30, and I've had as many as 70.
Wow.
Yeah, the current class, I think we have 45 or so. So it's a pretty popular course. The turnout is good, I think. We do get people who take the class a second and third time.
I was going to ask you about repeaters. You know?
In the current class, I know I have 2 couples whose spouse took it the first time. And the second time they brought their partner to the class. So it's a neat thing.
And I would imagine it's better if both parents are there, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. You know, I think part of what's happened is the constellation of parents has changed. You know, so now we are seeing 2-parent homes, we're seeing single-parent homes, we're seeing blended families, we're seeing grandparents having to come in and parent their grandchildren or their grand-teenagers. I think that if we get the adults on the same page, it doesn't allow for a strong-willed child to divide and conquer and to do those kinds of games.
Yeah, if grandma says no, go ask grandpa.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
At any point, this just popped into my head. Did the children come to the class at any point, or is it just parents only?
It's just a parent class. Yeah, I get that question a lot, but it's just a parenting class. But what happens each week is that there's a homework assignment. And so what parents will do is that a chunk of the curriculum that we've taught, they're going to take those techniques from the very first night and start applying it that week. They come back that next week. One of the first things we do after we introduce, what we're going to do that evening is we talk about the homework and how it went. And it's always really fascinating to hear the feedback that we get from parents, how surprised they are that they're seeing that there's some change happening in their homes.
So over 16 years, has the curriculum changed much, or is it still pretty,
the authors keep revamping it. And I want to say this is probably the 7th or 8th edition of Parent Project. So they keep changing it because the times change, technology changes, music changes. All of those things, and I think they actually have really done a nice job with that.
And where did Parent Project come from? Where did that start?
Well, Parent Project was formed in Pomona, California, and it was started by a gentleman by the name of Bud Fry. And Bud is a retired Pomona police officer. He was a police sergeant, and what he found is that he couldn't control his strong-willed son. So he began looking for parenting programs, and in fact, he teamed up with another gentleman. So they got together, and really through trial and error, what they did is they brought in groups of parents to find out what it is that they needed and wanted. And over the course of time, this is what they developed. In other words, what I think is different about Parent Project is that it's concrete, it's hands-on, it's stuff that you can take and start applying immediately rather than just theory.
And after 16 years, I guess that you could call it successful. I mean,
there's no question. There's no question. I mean, here in Solano County, we've helped thousands of families.
Do any other cities offer this class, or is it just because I worked in Vallejo for a few years? I never heard of Parent Project till I got to Vacaville.
Right. You know, it's offered all throughout the United States, and in fact, it's even offered, I believe, in Australia and some other countries.
Wow.
It is offered in other towns. It's offered. It's offered in Fairfield. Has been offered in Dixon, Benicia. And Vallejo is offered it at times.
Oh, okay, all right. But you don't have to live in Vacaville to. You can come from any community and take it in any other community.
No, we've never discriminated against people who live outside of Vacaville.
And how much does it cost to take the class?
We do charge. It's $40, and that's
for a 10-week class.
For a 10-week class,
includes a workbook.
Includes a workbook. So,
come on,
and that's per couple.
$4 a night.
Right. However, you know, we do appreciate that there are some parents who are under financial restraints because of the economy, and we've always worked with people. We always offer scholarships as well.
So someone at home is watching this and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should do this or not, or I don't know if I should call Gary. What would you say to a parent or parents that are on the fence about taking this course?
Well, I would say take the class, and obviously I'm prejudiced about that. But what I've told folks who are reluctant, I'll tell them, come the first night. If you think it's not your cup of tea, I understand. However, most people will find that it is. And I think what happens is this, and this is true of providers, it's true of educators, it's true of mental health folks, is that the class is different than what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, I mean, my kids are grown up, right? So too late for me. But when you did a presentation earlier, I thought to myself, wow, that would have been good to have some tools. Not that I had a strong-willed kid. My kids were, quote, good, right? But there were times where where you're challenged, you just don't know. It's like, God, what am I doing this right? Am I leading my kid down a path that they shouldn't go? You can only draw on your own experience so much, and you're always in the back of your mind. Fortunately, knock on wood, my kids have turned out great. They have their own families. Things are good. But you never know, right? And this, I would imagine, this even if you don't have a strong-willed kid, this is a good class to take.
I think it is, and I think part of what is helpful, or what folks tell me is helpful, is understanding how teenagers think, because they think very, very differently and very radically from us. And by the way, they're supposed to. This is human development. This is how teenage brains have developed over the years. What I appreciate about that is, the research tells us, those of us who have worked with teens have known for a long, long time about the brain, the SPEC scans. So the brains aren't fully developed, and they don't function in the same way as an adult's does till about 25. And I think parents sometimes get caught up in thinking about that they were teenagers once, which is true. However, it's really difficult for me to put myself in the place of a teenager in 2013 in Vacaville. I really can't. I observe these kids, and in fact, I think the challenges become greater and greater to grow up in our society. Right. But it gives parents some tools with that, in terms of how to view them. And
that was something you mentioned at your presentation a few weeks ago was, try to relate to a teenager today. And just sitting here now, I'm trying to think about what I went through as a teenager versus all the stuff that these kids have to deal with now. Good night, Right. It's almost not fair, between the social networking, the communications, just overwhelming almost.
Right.
And yet we're able to say to your kid, I was a teenager once. Yeah, right, sure, tell me about it, Dad.
And I think the other thing that happens, parents mistakenly will compare their lives to their teenagers. And teenagers really can't hear that. And I think there's a mistake with that, because as soon as I begin to compare my experience to yours, in some ways I'm devaluing yours. Right. Right. Look, my son who's 13, I think in some ways has things better than I did. But he has challenges I didn't have. Right. And I think technology, I think divorce, I think the way that people commute, the economy, 9/11, we have 2 different wars, 3 depending on who you listen to. All of these things impact our kids in ways that I don't think adults can completely appreciate. And going back to that developing mind thing, how much impact does that have on a young person, maybe not right now, but when they do finally reach adulthood and their brain is mature and it's like, wow, when I grew up, it was a Vietnam War, right? And I think to myself, wow, that really affected who I am today.
right? And not the politics of it or anything, but certainly that. But in terms of how it was presented and how you saw it on TV, and it kind of numbs you to certain things, and you know, and that was one big thing, right? Vietnam War, and now you got, as you mentioned, 3 different wars, maybe, and all the other stuff with AIDS and again the social media stuff. It's like, wow, just bombarded all the time, these poor kids. You know?
And
terrorism and everything else.
And technology throws that at them. You know, not to mention video games, not to mention, you know, the way that information is so quickly dispersed to kids and how they connect with each other. There's positives to that, but there's a negative side to that. There's a dark side to that as well.
Right. But by the same token, that also provides a lot of opportunities for kids to grow and become better people than we were, and avoid the mistakes we made, and you know, mature into good human beings and good citizens. So, and I think that's what every parent wants. They want their kid to be happy, right? That's not an unusual thought or request or goal for any parent, and the class, I'm sure, helps parents attain that goal for their kids and themselves too.
Absolutely. We all want to be better parents than our parents were. My experience, though, is that I have yet to meet a parent who didn't, in fact, have moments where they did not know what to do.
Right.
And I think that, you know, the way that communities change, you know, that it's not necessarily villages that raise kids anymore, it's families, it's single-parent homes. There are many people who really don't know what to do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I think if a parent is taking a parenting class, it's clearly an act of love and commitment to their child, to their family, and really to their community as well. Because we all want to do better than was provided to us.
Right.
So why would we not seek out information?
So one piece of parenting advice you would give to anybody who came up to you and said, Gary, I saw you on TV, or I know you teach these classes. What's the one thing you can tell me that's going to help me deal with my child?
Well, it's hard for me to give you one. I can give you a bunch, but if I was going to say that there's one thing that we don't do enough of, is that we don't tell our kids that we love them enough, and we don't express it enough, particularly when they become teenagers, particularly when they're beginning to separate and individuate, which they're supposed to do.
Right.
And I think the opposite is often true. Teenagers who act like they don't care really do care. Okay, they want us to be consistent. They want us to be in their lives. They want us to keep them safe, even if they fight us to the very, very end of it. They absolutely want us involved with them. So be in your child's business. I think it's important. I think with all the danger that we have now, the need for that, it becomes greater and greater. And
yet still respect some boundaries in terms of their personality and their privacy and things like that too. Because before I go too crazy on this, that's what we did with our kids. You know, there's some ground rules. There's some things you're going to have to follow. By the same token, I get it. You're an individual. You're a person. You're going to be who you are. You know, I just want to make sure you end up in a good way as opposed to a bad way. And if I shouldn't have said that, tell me.
Well, we want to keep them safe, right?
Right, exactly.
And I think, you know, that, you know, Khalil Gibran talked about that, you know, our children don't come from us, they come through us. And that really what happens is that, you know, we are like an archer, and we pull the arrow and we let it go, you know, at 21 or 22. And then they go on into the world and have their own families. Right. But I think it's really challenging for us to let go of our kids, but to be involved with them, to love them, say the things that need to be said. Well, my daughter just had a baby. My granddaughter's 2.5 months old. We were at their house the other night, and she was giving her a bath. And I had a hard time with that concept, watching my child giving a bath to her child. I was like, wow, that was a little bit overwhelming almost, you know, but still, that's how it goes. That's life. That's the logical progression, you know, and it was neat. As kind of shocking as it was still real profound and a big moment for my wife and myself to see that. And we are still talking about it. It's like, man, I cannot believe that was our kid with her child, you know, and you can see that the things we taught her, she's already starting to impart to our granddaughter too. So, you know, you talk about the family raising the child. Yeah, obviously that's big. That's key. So, well, listen, anything else you want to add about the courses and the classes that people might want to know? I think if you're thinking about it, take the class. Yeah, I think you can always call, you can always email. I get lots of questions about the class. And if people want to have questions, can they contact you? They can, yes, they can email me and they can at gstanoff@cityofvacaville.com. Okay. They can also call me on my cell, 249-5223. By the way, we also offer the class in Spanish.
Right.
For Spanish-speaking members of our community. There's certainly a need there as well. And we also offer a class for parents of younger children, 5 to 10, because often those strong-willed attributes come up at younger and younger ages.
Start early, sure.
There's also a class that we do for 0 to 5. Called the Nurturing Parenting Program, which is also a great resource too. So we do a lot of parenting programs.
So Gary, how often do you hold the parent project classes in a typical year?
It's generally offered 3 to 4 times a year.
And when's the next set of classes coming up?
The next section of Parent Project will be starting January 14th, and that'll be on a Tuesday evening from 6 to 9. Parenting is the most difficult job there is.
Right.
It's the most exasperating, most frustrating thing that I've ever done.
Yeah, and you have a baby and they send you home.
Right. It's also the most gratifying thing.
No instructions. But you're right, it is. It's gratifying and satisfying. It's the best experience I've ever had in my life was being a father. And you're a father forever. And I look at my parents and I'm their son, right?
Right.
I'm 54, right? Yeah, I'm not their child. Yeah, I look at my kids and I see 5-year-olds and 3-year-olds running around and being goofy, even though they're, grown up. So you never lose that hopefully good parents bond. So, but anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate you telling us about the program. Hopefully it'll generate a little more interest. Not that you need it, because as you said, it's a popular program, but I think people need to know it's out there and that we offer that. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
for
Mark.
taking
My pleasure.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Downtown Vacaville, the heart of the city. It's Veterans Day, and we appreciate everybody getting up so bright and early and come out here to help the Downtown Vacaville Business Improvement District thank all those it served. We've been doing this for a number of years, and the crowd gets bigger every year, and we have a lot of fun with it. We're short and sweet, so we'll get going here, and thanks again for coming. We'd like to welcome a lot of fun individuals and dignitaries that are here today. We have a number of members from the Downtown Vacaville Business Improvement District, including the Board of Directors, are out here this morning. Thank you for coming. We also have Congressman Garamendi is here, Assembly Member Jim Frazier, Skip Thompson's out here, one of our supervisors. John Vasquez is supposed to be here. I didn't see John yet, but he said he was coming. There he is, way over there. Thank you for coming. Mayor Steve Hardy's here. Council Member Mitch Mashburn, Curtis Hunt, Vice Mayor Diana Harris is here. And who else am I missing here? Let's see. Jeff Jewell from the Sacramento Veterans Center is here. Thank you for coming out. And thanks for everything that you do for all our veterans year-round, Jeff. Thank you kindly. We also have Cub Scouts from Pack 332 and 191 here. And I see some 193. 196 as well. Thank you for getting out here and having some fun with us. Former Mayor Lynn Augustine is here. And we also have a POW from Vietnam War. Richard Brenneman's in here. And Marvin Reel is here, 96-year-old veteran right there in the back. So appreciate that. And if you would please rise, we're going to play the Star Spangled Banner. Patrick Sheehan, would you please come forward and lead us in the pledge?
Good morning. I want to thank everyone again, as Bob said, and remember those veterans. And a quick reminder, all gave some and some gave all. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Patrick. Well done. Pastor Darren Paulson, please.
You join me in prayer this morning. Gracious God, we honor and bless your name this morning as we gather together to remember and celebrate the men and women who are serving and have served our country as a member of the armed forces. We thank you for their commitment, for their bravery, for their love for their fellow citizens here and around the world, whom they protect and have protected for generations. We can gather together today and celebrate how we want. We can vote how we want. We can worship how we want, living free because of the sacrifices our military made and still makes. And so we say thank you, Lord, for our veterans, young and old alike. We pray for President Obama this morning. Guide him, give him wisdom. Our senators and representatives. We pray for our governor, our state government, and our mayor and our city leaders as well. But we especially pray this morning, Lord, for the families, the wives, the husbands, the children and parents who eagerly wait for a phone call, an email from their loved ones serving far away from home. And we ask, Lord, that you comfort and encourage those today who will visit a gravesite, who remember a loved one who has paid the ultimate sacrifice for his or her country. And finally, God, bless the young man at his post this morning, shivering in the cold, the young woman working on an airplane, sweating in the heat, all by themselves, Lord. Let them know that we love them and are grateful for them as they stand guard so that we may be free. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please be seated. For those that did you chew, there's extra chairs too. We've been doing this for a number of years up here, and I have a lot of fun with it because every year I get to make some comments just about things that go on or a little different in the crazy world of veterans. In the past, we've talked about the Tuskegee Airmen, we've talked about the Navajo, the Code Talkers, our forefathers, our parents, things like that have gone on. And I had a couple stories I was going to share today, but then something popped up the other day, and it just kind of caught me by surprise. Touches me kind of personally, so I'm just going to go right through this and we'll go from there. Freedom. We know its meaning. We understand its importance in our lives. Yet there are times we forget how hard our veterans had to fight for the very freedom we experience today. In November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day, the first Veterans Day. Armistice Day was proclaimed to honor veterans in World War I. It became an official holiday in 1926 with revisions to the holiday in 1938 and again in 1954 when the title of the day was changed from Armistice Day to Veterans Day, where all veterans are honored. Ashley Person wrote this poem called Freedom is Not Free. There is a price we pay for freedom, for it is not truly free, but rather paid for by the contributions of veterans to buy our liberty. As their blood drains from their body and runs like a river through the grass, over the years it's forgotten, war is placed in our past. We should honor the veterans, for they act like a shield, protecting us from danger, keeping America healed. So if you would take a second to commemorate, you will instantly see we owe veterans our gratitude, for they are the reason we are free. I grew up in St. Louis and went to Christian Brothers High School there, and down the street was the Jesuit High School, St. Louis University High School. And we had a wonderful rivalry back and forth, ran cross-country, did all this great stuff, and there was a gentleman who was a couple years older than me. I guess he was a kid in those days, and he went off to war. He graduated from St. Louis High School. Michael Blassie entered the Air Force Academy. He received his wings and became a pilot in the 8th Special Ops Squadron deployed in Southeast Asia. Michael Blassie died when his plane was shot down near An Loc in South Vietnam in 1972. His remains were recovered and designated as unknown at the time because the remains weren't the exact size of height and all that, so they kept him just identified as unknown. In May of 1984, his remains, still classified as an unknown, came to Travis Air Force Base and then on to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland. As the unknown soldier from the Vietnam War, he laid in state in the U.S. Capitol. An Army caisson carried him from the Capitol to Arlington Cemetery on Memorial Day, May 28, 1984, where President Reagan presided over the funeral. Everyone involved was not aware that it was Michael Blassie. A CBS News report in January 98 claimed that a Vietnam unknown was Michael Blassie, based on Defense Department records. Michael's family secured permission to have the remains exhumed and DNA tested. On June 30th, 1998, the Defense Department announced that the remains were that of Michael Blassie. On July 10th, Michael's remains arrived in St. Louis and was reinterred in Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery. Following his removal from the Tomb of the Unknowns, the marker there now reads, "Honoring and keeping faith with America's missing servicemen." I'm glad that Michael Blassie finally came home. God bless him, and God bless America. And for all of us to celebrate this Veterans Day, take a moment, look around you right now, and thank those who have served and those that are serving, and thank you for the service to our country, one and all. Thank you. Mayor Hardy, would you like to say a few words, please? And Congressman, as long as you're standing, you might as well come up and say a few words, too.
Good morning, everyone. Of all the things that I get to do as mayor, this is really the one that lifts me the most. And as you saw, Congressman Garamendi had to lift me out of my chair. I'm a load, believe me, but I'll tell you what, it's just such a privilege to be able to be here and say a few words. Doolittle's Raiders had their reunion here 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know if you remember, but I'm a Navy veteran, and I still don't understand how they got 16 of those B-25s on the deck of a World War II carrier. Every one of them took off, and not one of them went in the drink. They had to take off 730 miles further than they should have because the weather got bad and they were afraid of being sighted. But they all made it, at least to landfall. A couple, I think, went in the water, but the rest of them, some crash landed in China, and the Chinese helped them to safety. And it was just a time that it was a major, major issue for the war. And it really, like the American spirit. There were 5 officers and enlistment to every plane, so there were 80 people that were involved. And they had a reunion at Dayton, Ohio this weekend, and there's 4 left. When they came to us, I believe there was 18. 12 were here in attendance the day that we had the reception for them. And I'll never forget, I went on a shaking the hand of one of the gentlemen. I just told him, I said, you're a real hero to me. And he said, I'm not a hero. I did what I was supposed to do. And in those days, those guys knew that was a mission that they might likely not come back. They still accepted the challenge. And in the end, did such a wonderful job for the United States. And they've decided that this past weekend's going to be their last reunion because there's only 4 of them left. 3 of them were there. 1 was too ill to make it. They're all in their early 90s, as you might well imagine. And it's a time during the war that was a major turning point. And those folks are always to be remembered. We're hoping to get the Jimmy Doolittle Museum out around the nut tree. If we manage to get that, we're going to be on the world. We're going to be a spot on the world that people will want to come here to see, because it's going to be really a wonderful facility. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for your service. I want to thank each and every one of you who had a relative that maybe paid the ultimate price. You know, in those days, people waited in dread for the Army car to pull up in front. But we won that war because of the spirit of the American people, the can-do and the willingness to make it happen. And many of you out here in this audience are who I'm talking about. And now you have your families and you have your grandchildren, and what could be better than that? So we all say a little prayer for those that aren't here, and we say a bigger prayer for those that are. Don't ever, ever, ever think that your service wasn't deeply appreciated, because it truly was. It was something we gave up out of our life, and it's grand to look back on. I was bounced around on a destroyer over in the Mediterranean during the Cuban Missile Crisis, so that'll show you what an old coot I am. But you know, when I think back on it, when you're doing it, you're going through hell. But when you're home and safe and you're discharged and everything, you find the good memories. You find the good memories. So anyway, I better shut up here. I'm going way too long. But anyway, I'll close by just thanking you all, everybody, for being here, the children and the adults, and those of you that served, and those of you of relatives that served. And I hope I've covered it all, because you're all deserving of the highest praise, the highest praise. So thank you, and I hope to see you again next year. Appreciate it.
Congressman, would you like to say a few words?
Mayor Steve, as I was listening to you, I was looking over your shoulder at other veterans who, like you, spent time in the military, serving this country in numerous ways. I noticed on your coat, which I always see you wear that Navy coat, the name of the ship that you served on, the USS Forrest Sherman. And I see out here in the audience others, generals, captains, enlisted men, who came home after their service to this country. And you have continued to serve, each and every one of you, in so many different ways. As a hard-working woman or man, continuing to earn your living, raising your family. Others of you in one business or another, such as the example that Brandon Thomas, wherever you are, Brandon, out there, told me about this morning. Someone came into our office a couple of months back suggesting that their payments from the Veterans Administration was in arrears. Brandon went to work on it. About $100,000 later, opened a shop in this community. Pizza Puck, as I recall the name. Serving again as a business, as an employer in the community. I see others of you out there. It's Veterans Day. And while we think of the time in service in the military, wherever it happened to be, on a ship in the Mediterranean, or in the case of our 91-year-old veteran here, is it 91?
96.
Oh, 96. Marvin, you know, way back in World War II. And in the wars since that time, and the more recent veterans that have returned from Afghanistan and Iraq, and more to come back. I think of the service that you're doing then and now in this community, making it possible for the community to be better. I think about what's going on at Travis Air Force Base now, the work that they will be doing, and in fact are doing this day, sending relief to the Philippines. And about this community's continued effort, not only in the military and in securing this nation, but in providing relief all around the world. Haiti, and now the Philippines. And so those C-5As, C-17s, and we're going to keep the KC-10 tankers here because they provide dual services. I suspect they may be refueling some of those planes out over the Pacific as we speak, and maybe some of them are being reconfigured to provide relief aid in the great cargo holds of the KC-10s. This is a great community. This is a community made up of veterans. And I look here at the Cub Scouts and the role they're going to be playing in a few moments. Future leaders, probably with one or two veterans serving as the scout leaders, or even among the mothers who are with the Girl Scouts. It's a good thing. It's good that today, on Veterans Day, we're honoring those veterans. The veterans of the wars, the veterans of the community building. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and for me to recommit myself to making sure that the United States Congress, the federal government, and the American people provide the support that the veterans of all of our history, World War II, right up to today and tomorrow, that they get the services that they need. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I want to thank the Downtown Association for making it possible for all of us to be here. Mayor, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we present the wreath, and it's been a tradition that we get Dialena, Vice Mayor Dialena Harris. Would you like to help us again this year? Appreciate it. Assemblyman Frazier, would you like to join us on this? And in closing today, I just wanted to say thank you again to everybody for your service. Thank you for coming out this morning and honoring those that have served and are serving. And shop downtown. Thank you. Have a great Veterans Day.
With me today is Gordon Keiser, a Vacaville resident and new author. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Gordon's written a book. Gordon, why don't you tell us the title of your book?
It's called The Silly Things That Make Us Sick, Fat, and Old.
That is correct. The Silly Things That Make Us Sick, Fat, and Old. And I can honestly say I've read the book. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. I brought the book home, gave it to my wife because she's going to live forever and wants to stay young, and I'm happy for that. I gave it to her and she read it. She read it cover to cover the night I brought it home. She handed it to me and said, "You are reading this book." And when my wife tells me to read a book, I, wash the dishes, feed the cat, I do it, right?
Right.
So I read the book and it was amazing. I thought it was a great book. There's a ton of great information in there. So before we go too far, I have to alert the audience that you're not a doctor. You're not a physician.
I am certified nothing.
Okay, good. So which qualifies you for a lot of things in this world. But you've just done a lot of research and talked to a lot of folks, and you have a lot of personal experience. So why don't you tell us about that and how you got to this point in your life with the book?
Okay, it started about 4 years ago, and I had been a diabetic for a number of years and was in denial. Mm-hmm. I went to my doctor, who is a doctor at Keiser. Since my name is Keiser, I get pretty good service there. But he said, "Mr. Keiser, you're going to have to take this diabetes thing serious. Your A1C is 10, which means it's off the chart this way." And so I said, "Well, oh, okay, what should I do? I'm game. How can I fix this? I have been taking 3 pills, or 3 medicines, an injection and 2 pills for my diabetes. It was going nowhere. And I was taking high blood pressure medicine, I was taking cholesterol medicine, and I was taking a lot of pain medicine because my joints ached. And so he said, you know, if you don't take this serious and do something about it, you're going to end up with a lot of the bad things you hear about diabetes, like losing a limb, your eyesight, heart attack, stroke, all the bad things that you can imagine. And so I said, okay, so what do I do? He said, well, your time's up. He's got 15 minutes. He is not an educator. His job is to fix you when you're broken.
Treat you, right.
Treat you, right. And so he said, but Keiser does have a lot of good stuff. So I enrolled in diabetes things, various classes and so on. And I was excited about starting it. Went to the classes, and it went on for like 6 weeks or something of that nature. And finally, after it was over, I remember standing in my kitchen going, okay, what do I do now? And I had received like a ream of information from Keiser. I had listened to people preach to us, show us slide presentations. Speakers came in. And most of the time, it appeared to me that those people who were teaching us what to do did not have diabetes.
Sure, they're healthy. Or at least they weren't afflicted.
Right. And so, standing at my counter in my kitchen, I'm going, okay, now what was it I was supposed to do? Let's see now. She said, what was it? And I start going through my stuff, and of course I can't find what I'm looking for because my A1C is 10. My brain is gone, virtually. I mean, I can't find my keys. When I park my car, I go out the wrong door, and then I'm one of those seniors you see walking around in the parking lot looking for their car. I couldn't remember that, but I could remember Doreen DeLucchi, who was my love in Sacramento when I was a kid.
Junior high, yeah,
that
whatever.
Sort of thing. So I thought, this is my opportunity to really see. Well, I had talked to other people, and I said, I've got diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and joint pain and all that. And they go, you too? And I found out that over 50s, a great percentage of the people have lots of things going on. And I would talk to somebody and they'd say, no, I'm not taking blood pressure medicine. Oh, but my cholesterol is off the chart. And, yeah, I've got diabetes and that sort of thing. So I started to subscribe to newsletters from people like Yale and San Francisco, University of San Francisco, or California at San Francisco, and all kinds of teaching hospitals, investigative laboratories, and read all kinds of things. And I found that if you look closely, there's a summary at the end of every one of them. And it says things like, activity improves this situation. They may be looking at dementia, or they may be looking at heart attacks or stroke or whatever, and they run all these people through all of these situations for sometimes years and thousands of people. And they come to the conclusion that activity, to a great extent, will improve that situation.
And when you look at something like arthritis, it seems counterintuitive that, okay, movement is going to help a joint issue,
yes.
Right? But it does. So that was, I'm sure that's part of what you found too.
Well, and that brings up a good point, because the reason that works is when you put stress on a system in the body, it heals itself. So now you don't want to overstress it to damage it, but putting stress on it by just going walking, it will begin to heal it. So anyhow, I found that there was a lot of things that were causing it. You know, if you talk to a physical therapist, or you talk to a nutritionist, or you talk to some other specialty, the reason that you're not healthy is because you're not doing their specialty enough. You're not working out hard enough at the gym. You're not eating the right thing. You're not on and on and on. So I was able to identify about a dozen things that cause us to get sick, fat, and old. And they're not the things that we thought they were. I mean, when I asked my doctor, what should I do? He said, you should lose weight and you should be active.
Eat less, exercise more.
That's true. And that is true, but that's not all there is.
Right.
For example, there are things like low self-esteem. It's a killer. Stress, loneliness, thinking that it's all over for me and I'm just waiting to check out. Sitting and watching TV too much, or too much screen time, as they now call it, because you're in front of a screen, whether you're on TV or you're working on your computer. It's all screen time, and you get what I call the butt danger of sitting on your butt too much that can be cured a lot by activity.
And again, I don't want to keep interrupting you, but I just want to emphasize that, you know, the things you're talking about and the things in the book, it's not like you need to run a marathon, lift 1,000 pounds every day, climb a mountain. You're talking about some, I don't want to say passive things, but, you know, take a walk.
Easy things.
Walk for 30 minutes a day. Instead of driving to the store, walk to the corner store or walk around your neighborhood. Call a friend. Take the stairs. Don't, you know,
don't use the elevator.
It's pretty simple stuff, you know, and yet it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people, and I understand. You know, you don't feel good. Taking that first step is tough, but in the end, the benefits are miraculous, right? I mean, you're a living proof of what can happen.
Yes.
So,
and there are, you know, other things like re-engagement. I don't know why it is, but it seems like when people retire, they disconnect from society because they're not getting positive feedback. And to begin, it's tough to cook for one person.
Right.
So now they're not getting the proper nutrition.
Hey, listen, it's tough to cook for two people. I remember my kids moved away. We'd make dinner, and we'd have like leftovers for 4 days. I'm like, well, I made dinner for 4, and there's 2 of us. And who likes leftovers after a while? They get old. But anyway.
The most important change is what it is we do, how we think, what it is we believe, and making change in our world. So, for example, somebody that retires, that is the most dangerous situation because they've lost their structure. And that, to a great extent, is what the AIM program is all about, is bringing that structure back.
AIM stands for?
Activity is medicine.
Okay, just wanted to get that out there.
And that's, thank you, that is the name of our website, activityismedicine.com. And the parts of the program is a list of daily activities. So the first thing you do when you get out of bed is you put on your blood pressure cuff, and you check your blood pressure and your heart rate. Then you take your blood sugar if you're diabetic. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to take it even if you're not diabetic, because you might find you're getting there. And then we ask you to read your IM card. There's a card in the workbook, and that's why the workbook is so important, because you write in it, you tear things out, you stick it in your wallet, you fill it out. For example, emergency contact information, you got to have that on you. So when you fall, and even with other people, they need to know what to do with you. Should they call your son? Should they send you to the hospital? And so on. And then the I am is an affirmation cards. So it says, I am. And then it goes, there's a whole list of positive affirmations. Now what you're doing is you're telling your subconscious mind, that's what I want to be.
Right.
And you need to overcome the conscious mind's going, oh, you'll never be that. And just do it.
Right.
Okay.
And
Look in the mirror.
that might be the biggest hurdle for a lot of folks is, you know, and it's God, I don't want to say it's hocus pocus or it's corny or what, but
it sounds that way.
But having a positive attitude, you know, if more people were just happier, you know, I mean, just the world in general would be a better place, you know, from their own self-esteem to how they feel about other people. You know, it's like, it's so simple and it's free, but it's hard to do. It's hard for some folks to do. But anyway, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
No, that's fine.
I just want to make sure we are clear about what we're talking about here.
Because one of the reasons that we still include walking groups, and you can go to our website, find somebody that wants to walk in your area, call them up, put together a walking group, is that you get that feedback from that walking group.
The power of journaling is incredible. You know, you want to lose weight, write down what you eat all day, every day, and at the end of the day, take a look, and you're like, oh, no wonder I weigh 50 pounds overweight. 6 donuts, 5 sodas, a cheeseburger at a fast food, you know, hello.
Right. But we do ask you to journalize all of your blood pressure, blood sugar, all of that stuff, your weight size. We ask you to measure that right at the belly button. Suck it in as hard as you can, because we want to measure
Give yourself some credit,
the fat, not just muscles that aren't strong. And we ask you to stay away from weighing yourself.
Right. I was going to say weighing is out. You don't need. It's not about how much you weigh. It's
right, because as it happened to me, I gained weight early on. I was losing fat, but gaining muscle.
And muscle is a lot heavier than fat.
Right.
So if they want to find out more about your book, your program, they should go to
activityismedicine.com.
All one word?
All one word.
Okay.
They can also buy the book on Amazon.com as a hardback, as a Kindle book. Then the next step is to get the workbook, which comes with the pedometer, the CD, and the measuring tape.
Right.
And you can't buy that from Amazon. You have to go to our website to buy that. But it's all the things that are necessary to get you moving.
Right.
That's the important part.
Right. Well, I really appreciate, first, you writing the book. You know, like I said, I read it and it was great. It really, like, as I said, it captures your tone. You talk in a very, it's not medical jargon and mumbo jumbo. It's very plain, simple speech that everybody can understand, yet it's not simple by any means in terms of, you know, Jack and Jill went up a hill. It's clear, concise, and it captures your tone very nicely, and it's got a lot of good info in there that you know, like I said, I'm your new agent, Gordon, so I want a little piece of this. No, I don't want anything. But the message is so good and strong that I wanted to get you on the air and let people hear about it. They can decide for themselves whether they want to do it or not.
Absolutely. But, and here's the interesting thing. Many people would rather die than spend an hour on their health and then they get their wish.
Yeah. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Talk about
Exactly.
And again, the book is a quick read too. You know, it's not
only
like
53 pages.
Yeah, it's not like you got to dedicate the next 6 months of your life.
It's not 300 pages.
No.
Right. And let me tell you, the reason that I wrote the book is there are lots of people who, like yourself, are still active, still employed, have families, but yet need some additional help. And there are a ton of people who are ensconced in their homes, in their apartments, in their mobile homes, only because they think they have to. We need to get them out, get them walking, get them enjoying life, get them laughing again, get them interested, get them sleeping well, and all of that kind of stuff. And that book is a do-it-yourself.
Right, it is. That might be the thing I like about it the best. It's something you can do yourself.
Yep.
So, again, thank you for the book. Thank you for taking some time to come talk to us. And hopefully we can reach a few folks and improve some lives out there, both seniors and otherwise. So,
Yep, exactly.
Thank you once again. Well, that's it for this episode of the Vacaville View. Remember, if you have any questions at all, feel free to give me a call at 707-449-5371 or send me an email to channel26@cityofvacaville.com. Thanks for watching, and happy holidays, everybody.